Hello and welcome to the Texas Tribune's TribCast for Tuesday, December 9th. I'm Eleanor Klibanoff, law and politics reporter, joined as always by editor-in-chief Matthew Watkins. How's it going, Matthew?
Doing well.
Good.
Texas A&M in the college football playoffs.
Some thought it would never happen again.
Yeah.
And here
again,
we are.
it's never happened, period.
It's never happened,
It's the
period?
first time ever.
Ever?
Mm-hmm.
That's...
I mean, we've only had a playoff for,
right.
a few years.
But still, that's exciting.
Feeling good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For our UT listeners,
our condolences.
We'll do a different top for them.
Right.
Yeah.
And also congratulations to our friends at Texas Tech.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A very exciting, postseason for Texas football teams.
Indeed.
Our special guest on this week's episode is Renzo Downey, lead writer for The Blast, the Tribune's premier political newsletter. You can sign up for The Blast at support.texastribune.org/blast. Renzo, welcome to the podcast.
Hey there.
Do you have a college football team?
Grew up in the Bay Area, so
not
Cal
really.
would have been my football team.
Okay.
I don't want to fuel any fire about people's potential perceptions of the Tribune, but 2 of 6 members of the Tribune politics team are from the Bay Area, which I think does not make for much of a college football team. And then 2 are from Long Island.
Also not a college football hotbed.
Not a college football hotbed.
Yeah.
I am solo representing from the South. So yesterday was the candidate filing deadline for 2026, which means we finally, after much speculation, have a slate of candidates who will be running for next year's election. 2026 promises to be a very big year for Texas politics. All the statewide offices are up for re-election or up for election in some cases. We also have a lot of really closely watched congressional races with potentially nationwide implications. The filing deadline is always sort of an exciting day. You never know what's going to happen, and they have until 5 p.m. on the deadline to start to make any last-minute decisions. This year was extraordinary, even for that usual excitement, because we didn't know until last Thursday, 4 days ago, what congressional map we'd be using for next year, which is added to a degree of uncertainty and excitement, I would say.
Indeed.
Certainly Republicans were proceeding as if they'd be allowed to use the newly redrawn GOP-friendlier map. Democrats were proceeding as if the court order striking that map would be allowed to stay in effect. And in the end, Republicans made that call correctly, leading to a lot more last-minute seat swapping on the left, but certainly some surprises on the right. We're going to go sort of through the races that await us for March's primary and November's general. But yeah, any big picture thoughts after the, excitement of filing day? We'll get into the specifics, but.
I mean, I think the big news of the day in Texas and really beyond was the Jasmine Crockett news, right? And the way that, I think there were a lot of people asking maybe from outside the state whether this is sort of like a Tea Party moment for the Democratic Party, where for so long the sort of activist wing of the Republican Party was ascendant and really took control of the party. Democrats have been able to the establishment has been able to hold on. Does Jasmine Crockett jumping in this race against someone who I would say the Democratic establishment is quite excited about already, does this represent a change, and what does that mean? Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think, whether or not that will have any influence on who actually becomes the U.S. Senator for Texas, I think it's the big, most interesting thing that happened yesterday.
Yeah, I'd agree with Matthew that the Democratic side is 100% a fight over what does it mean to be a Texas Democrat and how you go about being a Texas Democrat. But, beyond that, we've got some big fights for some of the biggest seats in Texas. But also, looking at some of the other statewides, Ken Paxton, longtime attorney general, he's running for a different seat. Sid Miller, agriculture commissioner, has got a bit of a fight on his hands. We're starting to see a little bit of a shakeup of that leadership at the state level that's been in place for over a decade.
Yeah, I've worked at the Tribune for over 10 years, and we've had the same kind of top 4 people, governor, lieutenant governor, Senate, U.S. Senate in both seats. And I mean, I guess it's possible that we will emerge from 2026 with that still set up, but there's like a lot of sort of shuffling.
Yeah, I mean, it's
happening in the
guaranteed
meantime.
that it will look at least a little different
Yeah.
with Paxton not going to be Attorney General anymore. But yeah, it's an interesting. Renzo, you were at the Republican Party of Texas headquarters yesterday, which is where people
outside
were.
of it.
Outside of the Republican Party, Texas. Sort of what was the energy? What was the vibe from candidates? I mean, are they feeling pretty victorious about getting to use the map that they were hoping to use?
Yeah.
Winning the redistricting fight, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, this map created a lot of opportunities for Republicans that, speaking of this, statewide slate that's been in place for a while, I mean, there's been a lot of, there have been roadblocks at the top for people trying to move up. And so, if you create potentially 5 new GOP seats, then that's a lot of opportunities for members to jump in. And so I think we'll talk about some of these races, but you're going to have like a bunch of political newcomers jumping into, like, one of them is going to be like probably the next congressman in a given district. So.
Right, which is exciting, terrifying, all of the above for us as political reporters. So let's start at the very top of the ticket. Governor's race, looking sort of as we were expecting it would look before the filing deadline approached. Renzo Abbott, Governor Greg Abbott, as we said, longtime governor, more than a decade, running for re-election with more money than God. How is it looking on the Democratic side?
Well, on the Democratic side, it seems like the main candidates are going to be State Representative Gina Hinojosa, and you've also got White, son of former
Andrew
governor
White.
Andrew White,
Yeah.
and
Bobby Cole.
yeah, Bobby Cole. I think we
That's
that's
the
That's
that's
just
highlight.
those
Yeah.
3 big names.
I mean, I think it really, what this shows is the strength of Abbott, right? Like the Democrats have a pretty decent bench right now of like interesting, popular candidates who can raise money, get people energized. I mean, James Talarico, Jasmine Crockett, Colin Allred, wanted to run statewide, is now not. Even people like Beto, the Castro brothers, there are folks that people can get excited about from a statewide and national level, and none of them even
Looked at governor.
glanced at the governor's seat, and that's because he is so popular in the polls, and because he has just an inhuman amount of money to spend, and I don't think anyone wants to go anywhere near that, even in a year where I think people think Democrats nationally are going to kind of outperform their sort of regular baseline in this midterm election.
Yeah, and there was a rumor for a while that Colin Allred was going to drop out of the Senate race and run for governor, but he didn't even do that. He decided he was going to try to go back to Congress.
Right. I do think it's sort of someone has to run for it, and credit to the Democrats who are trying, but
The sacrificial lamb.
I mean, just the sheer amount of money. It's it does matter how people feel about Greg Abbott. It matters more that he's got the money and obviously the party support.
Yeah. And a pretty sophisticated kind of political apparatus that he's been able to wield effectively, to support himself, but also, shape the legislature and other races in the way he wants.
And even further down, he's vowing to turn Harris County red, right? He's got so much money, he's going to start going, doing offshoots. Yep. Sorry, Renzo.
No, that's kind of exactly what I was going to say, is that because he doesn't have a major fundraising challenger on the Democratic side, I mean, he's going to be free to spend his money however he wants to boost turnout in South Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, or in Harris County, or wherever else he decides to support Republicans.
Yeah. Also, I mean, a little further down, we're not going to have much of a primary here, so we don't need to go over this to great detail. Dan Patrick, lieutenant governor, longtime lieutenant governor, up against Vicki Goodwin on the Democratic side. We didn't really see any surprises around the filing deadline with that race, so that's been set.
Right. The biggest surprise there would have been before the filing deadline with Mike Collier, the previous multi-time Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor, deciding to take a shot as an independent in that. And we'll see how going the independent route goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And And then Attorney General, our first non-Paxton Attorney General race in over a decade. I mean, that one I think is shaping up. Maybe it's just because I'm covering it for the Tribune, but like it's shaping up to be a very, very interesting fight. We've got 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and certainly on the Republican side, like really a battle over like does the next generation of the Attorney General's office look like? Those candidates are current U.S. Rep Chip Roy, former DOJ lawyer Aaron Reitz, state senators Mays Middleton and Joan Huffman, all presenting sort of different ideas of that office, but all within the vein of continue this conservative litigation strategy.
I think it's amazing that you can have four candidates in one primary, and they all present a very different vision and presentation of what it could mean to be an attorney general.
Can you break down a little bit like what that vision looks like by those candidates?
Yeah, so Chip Roy has been one of the strongest conservatives in Congress, not afraid to buck with leadership when he needs to. And he's kind of bringing that to the attorney general's race. But, at the same time going after, talking about Epic City and Sharia law. That's kind of been some of his newer talking points, seems to me newer on the trail. And Aaron Reitz is taking a very, I think he wouldn't mind me saying militaristic.
I think he would love that. Yeah, right.
Approach to the role of the attorney general. Talking about the arsenal that the legislature is creating for the attorney general.
I mean, using the language of war and the battle is happening in the courtroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Joan Huffman's, talking about her background in criminal law, as a judge and prosecutor. And she wants to bring the criminal side, which historically hasn't really been the role of the Texas Attorney General, but trying to
strengthen that relationship with the DAs. And,
yes, yeah. And then Mays Middleton has had, I'd say it's more similar to Aaron Reitz, but with a calmer demeanor.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna test out a take here, and let me
Love
see
it.
how
Yeah.
you feel about it. Is that this is sort of like first post-Trump primary? I mean, I know Trump is still in office and he's still there, but I feel like I look at this race and I see this sort of like different ideological corners that are there that have largely been brought together under the Trump presidency and the Trump candidacy, and now we know that in whatever future where Trump is not around, there's going to be kind of a jockeying for like who is going to emerge and represent those different corners, in the national party. This feels sort of similar to that right now, where it's like each of them sort of take their own cues from Trump and do the things that he does, but they largely represent like a different idea of like where folks might want the conservative movement to go once Trump is gone.
I think like in terms of like personality and style and like to that question of like who can sort of be the next Trump, which so much of Trump is his personality and his like charisma and all that. I think we're seeing that play out. Like, do people want a fighter? Do they want like a renegade? Do they want, a law and order conservative? Yeah. I do think like broadly speaking, certainly 3 of these 4 people, and I think you could make the case for Joan Huffman as well, are pitching a very similar, like where some of this is splitting hairs, right? I mean, when we think about the fact that the Texas Attorney General's office is like the most important red state attorney general's office in the country, I think no one is like going to come in there, no Republicans can come in there and pitch like really blowing up what Paxton's doing and doing something really different. It's just, how do you want that styled?
Right.
Which I would say there are similarities of post-Trump, post-Paxton. Paxton is in many ways a Trump-like figure in Texas.
And they all sort of want to claim the mantle. Like they want to sort of make the case that they're representing what Trump represents, even though he might represent a different thing to different people.
Exactly. Right. No one is saying, I'm going to do it that differently.
Yeah, let's move on from this guy.
Yeah,
or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be, I just think a fascinating race. And we're already seeing a lot of campaigning. I mean, I think it is telling how important this office is for the number of candidates who are choosing to run for Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, on the Democratic side, we have State Senator Nathan Johnson, Joe Jaworski, who has run at least once before, former Galveston mayor, and then a sort of political newcomer, Dallas lawyer Tony Box, who has worked in U.S. Attorney's Office, as well as like other legal background. So that will be interesting to see as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, like a situation of like, there's a lot of good, big, interesting names in the Democratic Party, and they all seem to focus on that one U.S. Senate seat as opposed to some of the other opportunities that might be there in terms of, what was the year 2002 where it had like the Democratic Dream Team ticket? They did not get organized enough to do something like that this time around.
And there was reportedly talk of trying to do that, right?
Yeah. Multiple attempts.
Yeah.
And maybe when we get to the Senate, we can talk about the reasons why. But I feel like when I'm looking at the list, I really feel it in this AG's race. It's an open office. Most statewide voters in a general election, frankly, do not know who these people are, with the possible exception of Chip Roy. But even then, I think he has a relatively low name ID. And there really could have been a possibility to put a Democrat who maybe had higher name ID in that seat, and they did not do that.
Yeah, the Democrats have no shortage of lawyers that they could have stuck in there
Right.
if they wanted to. Well, let's move. I mean, we've been sort of talking around this. Let's talk about, yesterday where we saw the most chaos was in the Senate race. We already sort of had this very contentious fighting primary going on the right, which is, longtime incumbent Senator John Cornyn being challenged by Attorney General Ken Paxton, which has been just sort of already a real knockdown, drag out fight. Then we had the addition of U.S. Rep. Wesley Hunt. The Democrats, as of yesterday, seem to be trying to match that chaotic energy that they're seeing on the right. Renzo, talk to us a little bit about, where did we start the, lead up to the filing deadline, and where are we now?
Well, I guess going into the final weekend, it seemed like it was going to be, we knew for sure Colin Allred, James Tallarico, and Jasmine Crockett was very publicly a maybe, but seeming like she was leaning towards yes. And on the morning of, Colin Allred decides he's dropping out. He's running for Congress, deciding that a primary and very likely a runoff is a bad thing for the Democrats. That's time that Democrats would be spending fighting each other rather than unifying behind a candidate. While on the GOP side, they're going to be going to a runoff, so they're going to be they're going to have that infighting.
Yeah, wasting a lot of time and money, or maybe not wasting, but using a lot of time and money to battle that out.
Did you watch the Crockett?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give us your take.
Well, did I watch the Crockett announcement or the launch video?
I watched the launch video, which we should discuss.
Yeah, I guess like one of the big questions I have here is you talk about the desire not to fight. We saw the James Tallarico statement that came out, and he was sort of like, "Welcome to the race. We want to be united." Crockett, I think, has built a very strong statewide and national following for being a fighter, right? Like the things that she said to Marjorie Taylor Greene, to people like her because she's a fighter. And I'm very curious to see whether or how long that sort of like, let's all say nice things about each other in order to not damage each other, idea lasts in this primary.
And I haven't seen, she is, I think James Tallarico is saying,
Yeah.
welcome to we're glad to have you, let's all be friends. I don't know that Jasmine Crockett is making any such promises.
Yeah.
It seems like it's, I guess I'm curious, and Renzo, maybe you have a better sense of this. Do we think that she is actively going to run against James Tallarico, or is she can she just run on the idea of like, vote for me and I'll beat Paxton, vote for me and I'll beat Cornyn?
From what it seems like so far, it's all about Cornyn and Abbott and going after the Republicans and energizing the Democratic base. She was on TV in the last 24 hours saying, she doesn't really need to win over Trump voters, that, she's going to bring in new voters.
Turnout.
Exactly.
Should be interesting to see. I do think to some extent, maybe not contentious energy-wise, but a competitive primary does draw people out in a way that A boring primary doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I completely buy the argument that like a heated, hotly contested primary is bad for a party. Everybody sort of talks about that, but it just sort of means that your candidate is in the news more. Like that there's a little bit more mind share there. People may be a little bit more familiar. I mean, I think if I were a Democrat, I would maybe be frustrated about, again, the clumping of high-profile candidates in this race. But I don't know if they should necessarily be afraid of a primary.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you don't want to leave voters with the idea of like, this is the only person we could find. Like, put him up, right? It's like you want to feel like, I mean, I certainly, particularly coming off of the 2024 election where there was some thoughts of, how did we end up with these candidates? How do these people get chosen? Run a competitive primary. I do think it is helped by the fact that All Red is not running. There's not three people. They're not going to go to a runoff. Like, we're not going to see this might be a cleaner, messy primary.
And I guess we'll see, right? Because if you look on the Republican side, I think you can envision, John Cornyn using his considerable resources to try to make it clear to every single voter in the state that, Ken Paxton has been under indictment and impeached by a Republican House and, was accused of repeatedly, cheating on his wife. And that's probably not the kind of competitive primary you want,
Right.
But, I mean, we'll see what happens with this Democratic race. Maybe they'll dig up some dirt on each other, and that really damages them. But if it's more about like substance, more about the politics or the approach, and less about the skeletons in anyone's closet, I don't know if that necessarily is a disaster for Democrats.
Yeah, certainly. Here's a weird thing about me. The night before Colin Allred dropped out, there was some chatter in the politics channel about, is he going to drop out? Is he going to switch races? What's happening here? I went to bed that night and had a dream that I was covering Colin Allred's wedding, but I was very, very late. And so I had to steal a bike and bike there. And it was very stressful. You would have loved it, Renzo. You love biking. And then Aziz Ansari was there and he was officiating the wedding.
Oh.
Gabby, our DC reporter, has declined to interpret what it means. But if either of you have thoughts,
I got nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna recuse myself from that.
Fair enough. If anyone listening has thoughts on what my dreams mean, would love that because therapy's expensive. So Allred was running in the Senate race. He dropped out, but moved himself over to the 33rd congressional district, which is, after redistricting, one of two seats in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that remains sort of viable for Democrats. It has about a third of his former constituents. He is now running against his successor in the House, Julie Johnson. As our colleague Kate McGee would say, it's a little Lionel Messi. What do you make of all of this, Renzo? How is this going to shake out?
Yeah, well, it's already gotten a little bit heated.
Yeah.
Particularly on Julie Johnson's part, saying, I mean, she received endorsement from Emily's List and said, hey, women don't need to stand by, be the placeholder for a man running for office. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah. And I think it came with a little edge of like a man who has lost his previous races. Like it had a little, it was a dig. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, in Allred's statement, he was kind of saying that, he's stepping down from the Senate race to, clear the,
save a contentious,
right.
or more contentious primary. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to clear a path for Democrats there. And I mean, he got support from Jamie Harrison, who, was saying that this was selfless of Allred to step down and decide to run for Congress again. So I think you're going to have some. And I guess another interesting part of this is that Julie Johnson had endorsed Tallarico very early. And, that's Allred's successor going, hey, I'd rather go with the other guy.
Right. There may, without knowing anything, maybe there wasn't already like love lost between them. I don't know what their relationship is.
So it should be an interesting primary up there.
Yeah. It seems like like you said, like, it's like the two-step, right? The first step, people are like, that's a selfless move, step down for the good of the Democratic Party. Julie Johnson saying like, well, the second step where you went is like sort of maybe not as selfless or sort of stepping on me and my plans. And I think she certainly seems like, unlike, she's not doing the Tallarico approach of like, well, welcome to the show. We basically just have, because of the redrawing, too many Democrats in one area of the state. The previous tenant of the 33rd Congressional District before it was redrawn was Mark Veazey. They redrew his district sort of beyond recognition. He lives in Fort Worth. The district was redrawn into Dallas. There was talk that he would run for Crockett's seat that she vacated. But at the very last minute, he announced that he instead would be running for Tarrant County judge to try to unseat conservative Tim O'Hare. Did that surprise you, either of you? I mean, from Congress to Tarrant County judge?
Well, that had been pretty openly discussed for a while that, he might run for county judge, but that was almost kind of contingent on Crockett running for re-election as opposed to running for the Senate. So when it became pretty obvious that Crockett was going to run for the Senate, then it's like, oh, well, Mark Veazey's going to run for re-election in her district. And what ended up happening that morning, I believe, was Pastor Freddie Hayes jumped into that race. And, he's a well-respected member of the community up there. And, that would have been another expensive, contested primary. Yeah. And so maybe VC decided the best thing to do was to go for county judge, which I think Democrats think they have a serious shot at flipping Tarrant County.
Yeah, and I think that, we're sort of looking ahead to the general now, but I think will be one of the most interesting races in the general election.
For
sure. The way that O'Hare has governed Tarrant County, very aligned with, some of the most conservative members of the Republican Party. I think Democrats would really like to unseat that race. Tarrant County, of course, has been sort of a swing urban county, something that has, real meaning for kind of, politics in the state as a whole. Obviously, they have redistricted that, so Republicans, I believe, would most likely be able to maintain a majority on that court, even if the Democrat wins the county judge seat. But just, I think, a pretty fascinating, and I think what will be a pretty hotly contested general election there.
Yeah, and the other Democratic candidate in that county judge race was the Democrat that got drawn out of
Lisa
her
Simmons,
commissioner's court district.
Yeah.
Tough year for her.
Tough year. Yeah. I mean, Tarrant County is just endlessly fascinating, but I do think like when I did some reporting out there around redistricting, and, the sense from Democrats I talked to was that part of the reason that they so aggressively pushed this redistricting plan was to ensure that if Tim O'Hare gets unseated, they could still hold the majority because, it's harder to elect a countywide seat versus sort of these, districts or precincts, I think they're called. So I just think like that race, like you said, holds so much sort of tea leaf reading for the future of politics in Texas. Do people want this really, arch conservative approach when it has direct bearing on their lives versus, I think sometimes at the state level, it's easy to say like, well, whatever the legislature does, like, how will that trickle down to me? I think at the county level, it's so, there's like, they're outsourcing health and human services. They're cutting these different programs. Like there's real impact to that. Mm-hmm. Let's run through some of the other congressional districts that are about to get much more exciting. Some of these are really significantly redrawn as a result of the 2025 redistricting. Texas 9th, which was Al Green, a Democrat who is at least recently best known for repeatedly trying to impeach Donald Trump, will now, it seems, likely be succeeded by a fight for who can be the most conservative. We've got State Rep Briscoe Cain, Alex Mueller, former U.S. Rep Steve Stockman. Renzo, what are we looking at in Texas 9?
Yeah, well, those are some pretty big names who are running for that seat. I mean, Steve Stockman was the most recent entrant into that, yesterday filing. And
a perennial candidate.
Exactly. I mean, he's held seats in Congress in 2 separate stints already.
The hat trick.
And I believe he was he pardoned or
Right.
commuted sentence from President Trump.
Right. And also
Years
a
ago.
prior Cornyn primary challenger from
That's
back in
right.
the day, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was already a big race that was kind of dividing folks down there with Briscoe Kane, well-respected member of the legislature, strong conservative, kind of in and out of leadership, then kind of being more the conservative outsider again. And then Alex Mueller, the former Harris County judge nominee for the Republicans down there. I mean, both would have been fairly big names.
Speaking of people who have had their sentences commuted, or in this case, pardoned by President Trump, Texas 28, we've got Henry Cuellar, still a Democrat, versus the Webb County judge, as well as Jay Furman. What are we looking at there? I mean, one of these districts that is sort of a question mark.
Yeah. I mean, Cuellar is probably going to win his Democratic primary. And he seems to have support from national figures still. I mean, Jeffries is kind of supporting him as well. And that's been the case. He's had the support of Democratic leadership in his recent elections. But on the Republican side, you've got, I think the big name there is Tano Tiarina, who's the Webb County judge. He flipped parties.
Was a Democrat, now a Republican.
Almost a year ago to the day.
Wow.
It was
Happy anniversary
early December.
to him.
So we have a Democrat who was pardoned by Republican President Trump and a Republican who used to be a Democrat, possibly going up against each other. In the
Correct.
race.
Yeah, and both
That's fun.
Yeah.
Both would have been, while they were both Democrats, they both would have been conservative Democrats.
Sure, right.
So, I mean, this is kind of a small lane that they are.
Right. It's such a
here.
statement on like the political leanings of the Rio Grande Valley. I mean, just each side sort of wanting to claim like total ownership over it, and the answer might just be like they want someone in the middle on certain issues.
Yeah. Can we just talk about the Cuellar and the
Cuellar pardon?
pardon, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most popular, so much has happened that it sort of kind of washed over and then moved on. But just, what the hell happened there?
Right.
It's so fascinating, right? So he, the pardon just sort of gets announced on Truth Social. Everyone's like, what's the other shoe that's going to drop? Is he going to switch parties? Cuellar essentially then, a few hours later, files to run in the Democratic primary, says that he didn't even know that this was going to happen until it happened. And then, a few days later, Trump kind of blasts him on Truth Social saying he's ungrateful or whatever, which was just...
Yeah, saying he wasn't loyal to Texas voters and to his daughters.
Right, which was an interesting... I mean, the implication for President Trump, right, being that when he pardoned him, he thought he would switch and run as a Republican,
right?
Which is, not great.
But he also said that he didn't speak to Cuellar.
Right.
Yeah.
So he maybe had the, we
he'll
all...
just be so grateful.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
But then also just how do you feel as a Republican candidate in that race, being like, we're going to go after him for facing federal corruption charges, and then all of a sudden the president in your own party pardons him, and I think in some ways sort of takes that issue off the table, because now all Cuellar has to say is like, look, even your presidential the leader of your party is saying that this is a BS ridiculous thing. I mean, it just
particularly if you are going to run, again, as you likely are, as Henry Cuellar has repeatedly, run to the middle, right? And you're basically going to say, if you're a Republican, you can vote, you can like President Trump and vote for me. I could be Trump's guy in some ways, right? It has really muddled that path, I think, for the Republicans hoping to unseat him. Okay, another, the Texas 23, Tony Gonzalez versus Brandon Herrera, and last minute entrant. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Kiko
That's right. Uh-huh.
Kiko Canseco, former congressman, who I saw on Twitter, responded to our Hearst colleague Bayless Wagner asking whether or not he had entered the race in French, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
Fluent in French, Kiko Canseco.
Well, fluent in several languages.
Fluent in several languages. If that's what you're voting on, you should know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that race looking?
Well, I will say that when I called him yesterday, he said that he's kind of the mature candidate in this race.
In English?
In English.
Okay.
And then after we hung up, he called me back about 5 minutes later and said, I just want to be clear. When I said mature, I'm not talking about my wrinkles. I'm talking about being the better
commentary
character.
on age, and how that plays these days.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Tony Gonzalez. This is going to be his third term if he wins re-election, third
Sounds
or fourth.
Right.
But, he's been there. But Brandon Herrera, the YouTuber, the gun tuber.
The AK guy.
The AK guy, Second Amendment activist. He took him to a runoff last year and nearly won. Mm-hmm. And that was before these allegations that are kind of looming over Tony Gonzalez, that the Tribune has not confirmed that he allegedly had an affair with the staffer that has since passed away. I mean, he has denied that. Very strongly.
Yes, very strongly denied it.
Yeah. But that is still looming over that race there.
We can certainly imagine that the Republican candidates are going to make that an issue, whether or not it's ever borne out to be true.
Right. I mean, Brandon Herrera recently went after Gonzalez for the first time in a fundraising pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that promises to be a very messy race, I think.
Yeah.
Another one that's sort of just the most complicated thing we've ever talked about, and every time we talk about it, I get a headache, which is Texas 18, where we currently have a runoff for a special election. That is a Houston district, sometimes called the Barbara Jordan district, that has been without representation for close to a year now. They have a runoff for that seat in early next year. Which is between the county attorney, Christian Menefee, and Amanda Edwards, former Harris County.
Houston City Council.
Houston City Council, thank you. And then they will, again, soon after that, one of them is elected. They will have to run again in the primary. They've both entered to run the primary for the permanent seat. And then confusing matters further, Al Green has stepped into that district. Lionel Messi, I think we could say. I mean, poor voters in that district.
Yeah, it seems like Harris County gets that a lot, where they have to vote back to back to back to back to back. I mean, this is going to be, there was the special election when Sheila Jackson Lee died. They were concerned, they being Harris County Democrats, they were concerned at the time that that was going to go to a runoff, and then they just wouldn't have a member of Congress because the runoff would have been after the next term. So Sheila Jackson Lee's daughter, whose name I'm blanking on. Erica Lee. Oh my God. Well,
I think she might go by Erica Jackson Lee.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. She kind of cleared the waters there, and then Sylvester Turner ran in the general, got swapped in on the ticket.
Yeah, what a mess.
And then he passed away shortly after that. And so it's really been over a year that's been vacant, because, I mean, Sylvester Turner was there, but very briefly.
Right. I mean, certainly it's been swapping hands in a way that's like people in that district have not had consistent representation really since Sheila Jackson Lee passed away. Couple other districts just briefly. I mean, Texas 15, we've got Monica De La Cruz versus Ada Cuellar and Bobby Polito, which will certainly get some eyes on that. And Texas 34, Vicente Gonzalez versus Erica Flores and Myra Flores. No relation.
Yeah. Yeah, Eric Flores and Myra Flores. I mean, it's kind of funny. We've got multiple former members of Congress who are running again.
Right. We've got a lot of people leaving and a lot of people coming in.
All red.
Yeah, right.
And then there's Kiko Canseco, there's Sue Stockman, and then there's Myra Flores.
Right.
It's also interesting as I'm just like sort of looking at this list. It does feel possible that we really lose a lot of kind of colorful elected officials in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a scenario where Ken Paxton is no longer an elected official
Right.
in Texas. Al Green is no longer an elected official in Texas. Briscoe Kane
Right.
is no longer elected official in Texas. Jasmine Crockett is
Right.
no longer an elected official of Texas. Like some of the people that like get the internet the most excited,
Right. Even James Tallarico.
even James Tallarico, we might not have anymore.
But then I look at this list and I look at who's challenging
There's
them, and I
plenty.
think we're going to be okay. I'm not too worried about losing the drama. Brandon Herrera comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think certainly. I think the one thing we can guarantee right now is that Texas will end this election cycle with as much drama as it started this election cycle.
Fair enough.
That is basically what we are teed up for the next 3 months to the primary or 4 months to the primary, and then several more months until the general election. It's going to be a very exciting 2026. If you want to follow along on all of the insider information, you can sign up for The Blast, where Renzo is the lead writer, at support.texastribune.org/blast. Renzo, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Matthew, thank you as always. That's it for today. You can find all episodes of the TribCast on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast on all your platforms. If you'd like to get in touch with the team, you can reach us at tribcast@texastribune.org. Our producers are Rob and Chris. Our theme music is composed by Rob, and we will see you next week.